Hello, everyone. Welcome to William in the Magic Box. Today on our show, we are going to have Gareth. Gareth is from England in the UK. So let's see what Gareth has to say. Enjoy the interview. So, hello, Gareth. How are you?
Well, yeah, very well. A little bit sleepy because it's the end of the week, but surviving as ever. How are you?
Very well. Yeah, it's been good. It's a good Friday. I was on holidays and I just got back yesterday.
You
So I'm
were.
just put myself back to, my normal routine, which is good.
Oh, it's such yeah, it's such a chore getting back from holiday and then adjusting. Like your brain's still in that mode, isn't it?
I just feel a little bit like a death because I love water. When I'm on holidays, I'm always on the water, and sometimes you just get a little bit like water in your eyes.
It stays in and you just
I
bang your
know.
head. Yeah, yeah.
I feel like trying to, but yeah, I'm okay. It's good to be back. So
Excellent.
tell me, what was the highlight of your week so far?
Oh, definitely last night. I went to basically the second semi-final of a Battle of the Bands that's been going on in
Wow.
our region. Um, it's called Metal to the Masses, and essentially the winner is going to go on and play at the Bloodstock Festival, which is a big thing. But it's just such an amazing, vibrant community. There's so many talented, lovely people in Norwich, and basically there's Norwich and Ipswich heats
Okay.
and the last semi-final happened yesterday, I believe. So then the
Uh-huh.
finals all sorted, and that's coming up. So,
Uh-huh.
and funnily enough, you interviewed Liam, I think, from
Yes.
Norwich.
Yes, absolutely.
His band won last night. So
Oh my
yeah,
God. Oh my God. Yes, I
yeah.
remember he mentioned during the interview about it. I remember that. Oh my God, such great news.
So yeah, like, and he's absolutely lovely. Like, yeah, we've only
Wow.
we met through the scene sort of thing, and I think that's how like I first saw your interviews and that sort of thing online. But yeah,
Oh
it's
my
it's so
God.
good that he's gone through, and he deserves it entirely. He's such a nice guy, and he performs at next level. It's
Oh wow.
insane.
You just made
Yeah,
my day now because I remember him talking about it. I remember him talking about
yeah.
the competition. Oh, that's very nice. Wow. And but did you perform there as well last night or no? You're just in the audience.
Well, I was just in the audience. Our band performed in the Ipswich Heats, but
Okay.
it was our first kind of attempt at the Metal to the Masses, and I think we've done better, and unfortunately we didn't get through. But
Uh-huh.
like it doesn't feel that bad because just the talent that's there is just absolutely outstanding. So yeah, like but as a result of that, like it's been good to keep going and stay involved in the scene. Like I think that's one of the things of being part of like a local music scene is it's not just when you play, it's being out there and supporting people and just meeting them and yeah.
I totally get your point. I think when you be part of those events, just being part of it, just being, in that environment is already like for me, it's the big thing because it's all about connecting, learning, teaching, sharing. That's the whole idea of those events for sure. Absolutely.
100%. Yeah, I moved to Norwich recently. That's where I'm based, Norwich in the UK. And like, well, I say recently, I moved there last year, and I think it was my first night out was going to last year's Metal to the Masses. And yeah,
Right.
like I think that was literally meeting. I went
Wow.
alone, and it's terrifying. It's so terrifying. Like whenever I do something like independently, I don't know if you're the same, but there's always that thing, like that little voice inside me that's like, oh, like, you don't have that safety net of friends and oh, you're gonna have to put yourself out there. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, like just being able to do that and be embraced by people, start up conversations and make friends for life. It's yeah, like so it means quite a lot to me actually, this
Absolutely.
particular set of festivals because I just have that warm memory.
Absolutely. And so, Chad, so you are based in Norwich right now, but where are you
Yeah.
from originally?
Originally, I'm from a town called Woodbridge. It's in Suffolk, just outside of Ipswich.
Okay.
It's a lovely sort of market town based on the River Deben. It was voted, I think last year it was voted the happiest place in the UK,
Oh, wow.
possibly because it's full of retired people with quite a bit of money. So that makes things easier to be happy, I imagine. But yeah, that was where I kind of grew up and spent. I was there until 18, 19.
Oh, wow. And why Norwich?
Why Norwich? So I've lived in quite a few places. I did my sort of university stuff in Scotland. I was in Edinburgh and Glasgow for my masters. After that, I moved to Spain, and I was in some of the places in Spain for 5 years, sort of thing. And then I came back to the UK and basically started again, but like did that whole sort of thing of like going back to the parents and being like, "Hi, mum, hi, dad, like I'm back." So that was in sort of Woodbridge, but by that point, my grandfather was kind of getting on a bit. He was 95 or something like that at the time. My sister had just had my niece, and she was a baby. So it was, so I stayed in Woodbridge for a little bit, and really reconnected with family in a way
Uh-huh.
that like I just hadn't, because having lived abroad or lived in Scotland, like deliberately creating distance. I was definitely one of those sort of 19-year-olds that wanted to create the biggest gap between me and my family. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, coming back at like 30, I think, like is when I came back to this country. Yeah, like I just wanted to spend more time around there. And since then, I found Woodbridge to be a bit too small. I needed a bit of
Okay.
city
Right.
life. And Norwich is kind of nice and close to my family who are still based in Woodbridge, but it has such a vibrant cultural scene. I think
Yeah.
having been in places like Edinburgh, particularly for the Fringe Festival, where they have all the performers, musicians, comedy, and I think at the moment, like we're just coming to the end of the Norwich Festival, which is on a lot smaller scale, but there is really a pulse of art scene in Norwich that I haven't quite found anywhere
Wow.
nearby. So yeah, that's why.
Amazing. Wow. And tell me, okay, so let's start the interview talking a little bit more about your career, yeah, as a
Hmm.
musician. So tell me how things got together, how your career has started.
Oh golly, like as a musician, I wouldn't even call my musician career a career. It's sort of like fledgling. I mean, it's always kind of been in my life. I mean, I started playing piano when I was 7 and did the whole grades thing, the classical music stuff. And then I remember at one point, I think I was probably looking for Christmas presents or something, and I was looking under my parents' bed and I found my dad's old guitar. And I didn't
Wow.
even know he had a guitar. It was complete secret. And I obviously pulled it out and started playing with it. And I think that's how I picked up guitar, and just being around sort of like friends at high school. Like I had some incredibly, what I would like consider cool friends, people that I would put on a pedestal. And some of them like are in bands to this day. And they would play like, really loud rock music and that sort of thing, like really distorted, aggressive music. And I think that's when the penny dropped and I was like, oh, I want in on this. And yeah, high school A levels, I did music technology. Again, none of this in like a professional sort of capacity, but I always loved it. I loved computer music, like doing sort of electronic music on my laptop, and that kind of turned into a bit of a hobby. And then at some point, yeah, it came to choosing a course at university. And for my undergrad, I was like, oh, should I do something sensible? No, I'm going to do music technology. Like, so went off and did some of that in Edinburgh. And that was, again, like, again, all of this isn't career because it's never been like a money maker, but it's just been like a passion and a
Right.
joy. And going to university and being around people who do sound design, avant-garde music, really abrasive, difficult stuff, like, 40-minute long pieces where you've got to sit there. It really forces you to change the way you listen to things. So it's not like just pop music. So going through all that journey, learning to play in the studio, because it is play, learning to code, which was basically my career now, is like I would call my career as a software developer. But I
Okay.
learned coding through university and basically doing what they call algorithmic composition, where you take computer code and it generates sounds and boops, and it's all a little bit
Right.
nerdy. I think we played
Right.
to about 5 people in every concert that we put on because it's quite niche. But music's such a great way to engage in, I don't know, like even the sciences. Like there's lots of mathematics, there's lots of physics behind it, but also in culture and the history, and certain kinds of music come about as part of these sort of waves that go on, whether it's like, you know, certain trends in the 19th century, going on 20th century, and the tastes change. And it's really hard to untangle music from everything. And even, you know, in your body, one of the most amazing things I learned in, well, I had the privilege of working near was a lecturer, what was it, Nigel Osborne, I think was his name. And he did music therapy. And he would go over, he would take a cohort of the music students in Edinburgh and go to the Balkans and use music as a therapy for the children over there post-war. And one of the first classes we had in university was him showing us the rhythms of music and how they resonate. You know, your heart moves basically at sort of maybe 100 BPM. And that's why a lot of music is sort of written in there. But if you want excitement, they ramp it up. But even like just sort of frequencies in your sort of brain and how they move, music affects that. So there's something very primal about it, but also, yeah, it's really hard to pull apart. And I think from all that, I then came back to this country, was like, okay, I haven't been in a band since high school. Let's sort of make this happen. I met a couple of people. Met my friend Dylan Stammers in like a pub in Woodbridge. We just got talking. We had some bands in common. He was like, come over, play the drum. Like, I'll play the drums and like, you can jam with us. And then from there, I found his group of friends and we started playing together. And then that basically formed Wojtek, which is the band I'm in at the moment. And that was a few years ago. And we started gigging probably like half a year ago, something like that.
Okay.
We've had lots of lineup changes. It's very early days, but yeah, there's been a really good reception and we've got quite a lot going on now. So we've just released our new single today, actually. It's on
Wow.
Spotify. Yeah. Ooh, how about that? So yeah, a lot of things are kind of coming into place now, but like I wouldn't have said like career has just kind of been involvement, whereas now it's sort of just wanting it. Yeah, it started out as a bucket list, New Year's resolution that's got out of hand. And so now I'm playing, yeah, in a band.
It's interesting you say about music, Gareth, because I totally understand when you're saying about how music reacts to people's body and our emotions. I was literally had goosebumps when you're saying that because I totally understand. I think music moves people, moves everything about you. You know, even when it's funny sometimes when I feel sad or melancholic, I even feel like put a very sad song, and I put a sad song and I feel good about it, even though I'm very sad, but I feel great.
There's something
I know
about
it's weird. I know it's weird to say that, but
no.
I feel sad, but at the same time I feel great being sad at this time because that music, you know what I mean? It's incredible.
I think it helps channel quite a lot of those
Yeah,
emotions. I mean, obviously, like I'm drawn to like now aggressive music, but there's something very,
yeah.
and a lot of people in that scene are not angry people,
Don't
but
know.
there's something about the music. No, like they're sweethearts. I think they have angry sides to them, but that's the beauty of it. Is like kind of you said, if you have those sad moments, it gives you like a hook to kind of channel that
Yeah,
emotion
yeah,
into and connect with and kind of almost get it out of your system because like if it's sitting there it's heavy.
yeah.
I had an amazing moment, well, I say amazing moment, but like similarly like to you, I was listening to sort of a Radiohead album that I hadn't listened to in a long time in the car journey to work, and there was one song that came on and I don't know whether it was the associations in my brain of listening to it as a young person, that sort of thing, but there was just this sudden release of like
Yeah. Yes.
sad energy, but in
Yeah.
a way that was cathartic. It really, really hit the spot at the time. So yeah.
Not just that, and angry as well. If you're angry, you know, as you said, you know, when people are singing, it come across very angry, powerful, but it's part of it. It's a great feeling as well because sometimes we are shy of expressing this way. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes we feel like we cannot,
100%.
or you cannot do this, or you cannot show, you cannot sing this way. No, it's not wrong with that. It's just we are shy about it. And when you see someone literally express in a very strong way, you go like, wow, that's what I need to hear.
Yeah, it brings it out of people. It's almost like a safety net. I know some people talk about guitars as being like a little sort of mask or barrier between you and the other people, so
Yeah.
that like when you pick up a guitar, it lets you be yourself because you've got like this barrier between, and same with microphones, same with just being on the stage and taking on a character. It's like you can still be you,
Yeah.
but
Totally.
you can bring out a part of you. That's, yeah.
Right. So during the interview, I'm going to explore a bit more about your life and also about your journey so far. Okay? Are you ready to go
Yep.
on a beautiful journey through your memories in life and share your point of views?
Absolutely.
Amazing. Welcome to William and the Magic Box. So I have here my best friend. Of random questions. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to play a song just for us to relax before the first question. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Let's do it. Right, so before we start the game, during the journey, if it comes up a question that you don't want to answer, you don't want to talk about, always can change, okay?
Okay.
Right, first question is, which book had a big influence on you?
Ooh. Oh, that's hard. For whatever reason, the first thing that comes to my mind is Train Spotting.
Okay.
I just moved to Edinburgh, and it was my sort of first year at university, and I did that thing where I think I went into, I don't know, like pop or one of these sort of pop culture sort of places, and they had Irving Welsh's Train Spotting sort of kicking there. And I remember reading it, and it's all written in Scottish dialect.
Oh,
So, you know, it would come out with phrases of like, "Do you ken the bairn?" And I was like, "Ken the bairn," and like all these, and you had to kind of keep going through it and sort of pick up the context. And after a while, you'd be like, "Oh, bairn means baby," or like, you know, and Ken means no, and all these little things. And I think I don't know whether it's like influential, but it jumped to my mind because I think whenever there's been quite a lot of books like this, but like whenever I'm kind of on a journey or in a completely new place,
mm,
it's like the first song you listen to that place, the first book you listen to in that place. And I think Edinburgh meant so much to me, sort of being 19 years old, the first real step outside of like my hometown. And there's
wow.
something about the black comedy in it that Irvin Welsh does. And that really chimes with my sense of humor. I like dark comedy, probably more than I should admit, but there's something, yeah, I don't know, there's something about the darker side of things and finding humor in that, or just a different emotion rather than just seeing it as black, you know. So
Wow.
that came to
So
mind.
tell me, and was the first place that you moved since you left your parents' house, your
Mm.
place. What Edinburgh has taught you so when you think about what's a lesson that being in that time of your life, you know during that time, what's something that this time has taught you that you're always going to remember?
I think there was coming from a place where there's a reasonably small sort of demographic and then going into this city which really is renowned throughout the world as being very cosmopolitan,
Mhm.
multicultural,
Yeah.
and meeting people from all sorts of walks of life, and then going to like the Fringe Festival and seeing street performers from all around the world, and there being this attitude, particularly in Scotland, I would say, of like embracing that. Like, I think there's a different mentality in Scotland, or like a culture, that is a lot more open. Maybe it comes from being like a sort of in the shadow, unfortunately, of like maybe places like England, like, you know, politically and all that sort of thing. But they really differentiate themselves. I think they have a lot more sort of leaning on the left, a lot more open to new ideas. And I think that seeing that firsthand and being involved in the communities, and above all meeting people, my best friend was, at university, who I lived with, was homeschooled, and I think like originally from Ireland, but like lived in, I can't remember exactly where he's from. It's very complicated because he was like, I think he's, I'm going to do him injustice now. Irish descent, but family, like lived in maybe Wales, or his family came from Wales, and then they ended up in Scotland, but his dad's English, and he really embodied that whole, you know, union of different kind of cultures and that sort of thing. And it showed in his attitude, in his openness, in his kindness, in his like sort of hunger for, knowing about the world and knowing people. And now he's gone on to do amazing things. He lectures on Irish literature in America, and he's had such an amazing life. And he introduced me to like quite a lot of metal music. And I think, yeah, just what Scotland meant to me in that sort of sense of introducing me to these kinds of people that from a small sort of, riverside town, you just wouldn't get.
Yeah, those life experience is gonna be there forever. I think you're gonna always remember that for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Next question. Let's do it. Hey, Gareth. Next question is, what makes you most uncomfortable about dating?
Oh, I haven't consciously like I don't date that frequently, so probably all of it. I like I kind of said, like I love meeting people.
Okay.
Um, I have kind of learned sort of, getting older and being, less sort of driven by emotion, all that sort of thing, like you are as a younger kind of guy. Like about dating, like if you go into it with an open mind and no expectations and just that whole meeting someone,
Yeah.
like it really takes the discomfort away from you because it's win-win. You're just getting to know someone, and yeah, whatever comes of a date, it's a great experience, and like it's a connection. So I think what makes me uncomfortable about it is all the sort of stuff maybe in modern dating that comes before it, particularly with apps. I don't really use apps. I haven't used apps like for dating in like 6 years or something like that. I've been quite lucky that most of my sort of partners I've met in the past have been through face-to-face interactions.
Yeah.
And that I feel like if you see the person as they are, but the awkward part is when you're sending messages and there's a lot of interpretation and I make silly jokes. Again, like possibly like ill-advised sort of dark humor kind of stuff, which I think if you didn't see my face and my tone of voice would definitely come across as creepy. But like, well, hopefully not creepy, but just a bit weird.
I
And
see.
I think, yeah,
Which
so
is
like you can
amazing.
read,
It's good. It's good to be this way. I think it's amazing, isn't
yeah,
it? Absolutely not wrong. Yeah.
that's it. So I think like, yeah, just all that dance beforehand where people don't really know where they're at. I think if you just got rid of that, people would
Yeah.
have so much more fun dating.
Totally.
But yeah.
Who was your first crush?
Oh, my first crush. I think I remember there being like a family friend, sort of like my dad's friend's sort of family. And they had like almost like a mirror image of our family. They had like daughters, like, so my older sister had like her Corey kind of corresponding. And then like the middle child, which was me, like there was a girl who like we were kind of like the corresponding sort of um yeah, like people in that sort of thing. And I just remember every time going over to theirs and just, I think like having just a female friend, but always like a little bit giggly. Like when we were young, like I'm talking like 6 or 7 and that sort of thing. But I just remember always like having this bond with this girl. And I think over the years and that sort of thing as getting older, I think like whenever we did meet up, and it was very infrequent. So maybe it was the distance and not really knowing each other, which made things a little bit more sort of, I suppose, like, romantic when you're that sort of age, a little bit.
Oh,
And so I would probably say, yeah, like as a young kid, I think that was probably the first one where I kind of felt a little bit of those sort of butterflies.
oh, sweet. Very sweet.
Yeah.
Next question. Let's do it. Okay, for the next question, as you mentioned in the beginning of the interview about your single, which is out today, yeah? So tell me a little bit about it.
So it's called Sirens. Yep, and it's on Spotify, and we've released it. It is, yeah, I guess it's a culmination of like all the tastes of the band kind of coming together. I think it was the first song we were working on.
Okay.
Like I said, I kind of joined in with like the guitarist and drummer, two guitarists and drummer who had already been playing. and all of a sudden like there was me and they had this song and I was like, oh, I play bass, so how do I, make my mark on it? And I think like it was interesting. There was lots of pushing and pulling as we were trying to figure out where we're kind of going. And yeah, it just kind of blossomed into it's definitely a banger. Like I think it's a banger. And um yeah, it's been a great like sort of experience for us. I could go into part of me wants to go into details about like the themes behind it, but the other part of me, which is saying don't, is the whole thing
Yeah,
of sometimes it's better if people attach their own meaning onto something.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I'm going to keep it a little bit mysterious, but it definitely has a little bit of bite to it. The lyrics come from quite a few sources. Some of it's political, some of it's quite human. But yeah, I just hope people enjoy it because it's a big step for us getting our first single kind of over the line.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's probably the point where a hobby that's got out of control is now turning into something more solid. So yeah.
And tell me a little bit about your band. So as you mentioned before, you already had two people already on it, and when you
Yep.
joined the band, yeah. So tell me a little bit about it. How they got together, how long they've been on, already, and how about you when you got it? What did you bring to the table? What things that you feel more passionate about being part of the band?
Like the band, I say this to a lot of people. For me, it's like being in a relationship. We're talking about like crushes and all that sort of thing in relationships just early on. Like for me, like being in a band is like being in a relationship with four people at the same time. Like like quite intense and everyone brings their own different sort of vibe to it. So there are two guitarists, one's called Curtis, one's called Michael, and we have a drummer, Joe, and I play bass, and Michael is now our singer. We went through that natural sort of thing which quite a few bands have where you sort of reach out and try and find someone who fits, and we were kind of none of us wanted to be behind the microphone, but eventually Michael did kind of step into that role after sort of just not really being the right, having some singers where it wasn't quite the right fit previously. But so Curtis and Michael had been playing guitar for like since high school, I think. They've been sitting on like these riffs, these songs going back. And they were playing with Dylan, who like still amazing friends, but he went off to university. So like he was our drummer and we sort of initially sort of played together in that sort of group for a little bit. What I brought was maybe, I suppose, in some ways the baggage of like all my musical classical training and that sort of thing. So like these guys like are great at writing snippets and sort of riffs, and they're now coming into their own as songwritings, but definitely earlier on they didn't quite. Maybe this is unfair to say, but like from my point of view coming in, they didn't quite have the song like structure nailed. So I'd probably say like I could take some of that raw material and be like, okay, but like maybe we can revisit that here and shape it maybe into something a little bit more cohesive. Like I'm by no means the world's best bassist, but I love just getting involved and just working hard on it. So I think that's something I bring. But yeah, and then we recently, I say relatively recently, like a couple of years ago, we met our new drummer Joe. So we put out some auditions, and he came into it, and he is again quite new, kind of similar to me. Just had that little chip going, being like, I want to be in a band. A little
Right.
bit like raw materials, sort of like same with me. I wasn't really playing bass particularly well when I joined. But yeah, like since then we've sort of come together and we're finding our groove and we're finding how the personalities work. So, Michael is amazing at getting stuff over the line. Like he is business minded, he's very direct. But, for example, Curtis is he's in some ways the soul of the band in that he's so relaxed all the time so that when we're butting heads he can always be the sort of the voice of reason, the person who sort of like smooths things out and like can just brings a lot of love and like that sort of energy to the group. I mean everyone does, but sometimes we're like when you get passionate about something you can be like this, and just having one person in the band who can just be like you know, simmer things down a little bit. And Joe brings an amazing energy as a drummer, and just yeah, like he's got so much talent, and yeah, it's just been great to be in this group of these people, finding our own sort of way of working. But we all bring such different things. In some ways, it can cause conflicts, but in other ways, that breeds sort of like it helps you understand yourself and the other people, and then it kind of turns into like yeah, creativity.
I
So
see.
yeah,
And the name of the band is
Wojtek.
Wojtek. Amazing.
So yeah, like that's an interesting story because back then we used to just go to pubs and drink and smoke quite a lot, and we were like, like we need a fun like name for the band that reflects that. And the name Wojtek comes from a bear that was adopted by the Polish army in the Second World War, and there's actually a statue in Princes Street Gardens in Edinburgh of this bear because the bear retired in Edinburgh Zoo. I didn't know this at the time, but basically the Polish soldiers used to wrestle this bear, and you can go onto Google and look up Wojtek the bear, and you see this bear carrying shells for the Polish army and wrestling them, and they used to feed it cigarettes and beer and all kinds of things. And I think there's rumors that the old Polish soldiers used to go to Edinburgh Zoo and throw packets of cigarettes over the over the thing so Wojtek could eat them. But it's a real testament of like, yeah, like I don't know, like it's a real story of camaraderie and like this, yeah, like this what you consider like like aggressive solitary creature, but just you know really coming into its own. And I think that's where we thought, oh, that's kind of funny. Like we'll name our band over a drinking and smoking bear, but actually the story behind it is incredible, and I totally recommend checking it out.
Amazing. Okay. Next question is, what does money mean to you?
Ooh, not much, hopefully. I'm not. To my own admission, I'm probably not that good with money. Like I feel like there's a lot of onus placed on money, and people can use it as a surrogate for like other things. I am no stranger to retail therapy. Sometimes, you know, I'll be on my bed late at night, sort of scrolling through Amazon, and I'll be like, oh, I'm a little bit tired, a little bit like sort of not in my best place, and I'll be like, you know what will cheer me up? Just buying some stuff that I don't need. And actually, yeah, that whole relationship with money, and like spending and that sort of thing, I feel like it's kind of a necessary evil. But
Mm-hmm.
I think when people talk about hustle culture and, you know, like really pushing for salary and that sort of thing, it's hard because like I know you can if you go that route, then you lose a lot of the other things which don't have to be transactional, but you might make transactional in your own head when it comes to money. So one of my friends recently, we went climbing, and she said, "Oh, I'll give you a lift to the climbing wall." And I said, oh, "Okay, let me buy you a coffee, like to as a thank you." And she said, "No, no, 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 I'm not doing that." Like, and I said, "Okay, why?" And she was like, "I don't want this thing that I do for you to be an exchange."
I
And it's
see.
really interesting, like when she brought that up, and I was like, "Wow, that's really refreshing." Because
Mm-hmm.
in my head, I was thinking, like, in when money is like the indirect thing between those things, but that whole transactional nature of things, I think sometimes it can creep in because it is everywhere. That said, you know, it is useful. I don't, you know, I don't want to be like I'm really
So,
in the middle of the road. Like I'm
yeah.
quite practical about it, and it means security to a lot of people. But I know, especially now with like cost of living stuff going on and that sort of thing, it can be a real source of, you know, like misery for some people. And I think you can focus so much on the money stuff, you lose sight of some other things. And but that's because we equate money with survival somehow. And I
Yeah.
think we've lost some more of the maybe community things, the alternatives that might, you know, like that might be a better solution. But I don't know. A complicated relationship with money.
I really like this story about your friend, which
Mm.
quite common for us. If someone like give a lift or take you somewhere, like or take you to the theater sometimes. Oh, I've got a spare ticket. Take. I'd like you to come with me. You go like, oh yeah, absolutely. And somehow I'm gonna pay our meal. I'm gonna pay a drink, and it comes from a good place. However, sometimes you go like, wait a minute, no, 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 it's fine. You don't need that. It's just as you said, your friend said, I don't want that. To go this direction. You know what I mean? I like that. I really like
Yeah.
that. Which is, if you offer to pay a drink or you offer to pay a coffee, it's a nice gesture as well because of what comes behind. However, the comments your friend made, it makes all sense. That I like that. I really like
I
that.
think it can be true, but it can also not be true. So, and I think sometimes it depends on the people involved.
Yes,
So, for
absolutely,
example,
absolutely,
someone might buy someone a drink with an expectation,
totally.
I mean, we mentioned about awkwardness around dating and all that sort of thing, but like,
Yeah,
the first date and the money and how we split the bill and that sort of thing,
yeah, yeah.
and possibly the power dynamics that are behind that kind of thing. Oh,
I
let me
know,
get this for you.
I know.
That can be complicated. Whereas actually just turning around and being like, no, I'm getting you a drink. I honestly don't care. Because I love being able to like get things for my friends, and like it's not about an exchange. It's
No,
just the
it's
joy
just
of giving,
yeah.
So
I
yeah.
see your point. Amazing. 3 questions left. Let's do it.
Ooh.
Okay, next question is, if you could ask for a miracle, what that would be?
That box has some tricky questions in them. If I could ask for a miracle. It's hard because I don't really believe in miracles.
Okay.
Um, like which is maybe I think miracles, like they're kind of wrapped up in a lot of like kind of religion and stuff like that. And sometimes like waiting on a miracle um can be an excuse for maybe inaction.
Yeah.
I think like there's blue sky thinking, but then I could turn around and be like, oh, I wish there were like say no wars in the
Right.
world and all that sort of thing. But that it's interesting, these thought experiments, if you take them like a little step further, it's like, well, what would it mean for people for there to be no conflict? Can
Mhm.
conflict be a good thing? Like in some cases, conflict against an aggressor, against like standing up for something that you believe in, obviously measured, can be a good thing. And miracles, yeah, I think there's a lot of wishful thinking that can go into them, and maybe this sounds really boring, but like, yeah,
No, right.
I struggle with them as a concept because I think, humans have the light side, the dark side, like we can't just wish these things to happen. And I mean, like as much as we'd like to, but sometimes it is, just embracing the universe as it is, warts and all. And yeah, going with that. I mean, that's not to say like I want there to be misery in the world and all that sort of thing. I just struggle with the concept of miracles. I don't know whether that's just avoiding your question.
No, I love your answer. I love your answer, and it's not right or wrong. It's just what comes to your mind related to that. And I understand your point. I think, it's when you think about miracle, you can go different directions. You know what I mean? As you said, people hope for that, expecting that, or something like that. I totally understand. Say
I
that.
think,
Yeah, yeah.
or
Carry
go
on.
on. I was going to say, like, I think there are miracles if it's the lens you view things. Like
Yeah.
my niece and my nephew are miracles. Like I'm a recent-ish uncle. Like my niece is 4, my like nephew's just turned 1.
Oh,
They are what I would consider a miracle. I mean, they're gross and disgusting at times, and they screaming and shouting at other times. But in other ways, like they bring so much more. And I think that is, like the miracles do exist. And it's like I think attaching the word miracle to something that is real is much more powerful, maybe.
and sometimes you see every day they don't even realize, or people they see
Yeah.
in a different way. Yeah, absolutely. Saying that, what's the meaning of life for you?
Oh, the meaning of life. It changes
Yeah.
as like it gets older. I think like the meaning of life is definitely what you make of it. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's so hard to say. Love, but then love is again one of those terms like miracle. It's thrown around quite a lot. Like what kinds of love are there? Is like there's brotherly love, there's like romantic love, there's like love for things and objects. Like it can it can mean lots of things, but I think like that evolution in the way you think is probably meaning of life. It's like being open to changing your ideas to love's a good example where like you start out as a kid and it's like you love your parents because they're
Yeah.
gods in your eyes, but you also love them because you need them. Without them, like it's almost like like there's a really good book I'm reading at the moment called The Art of Love, and it's very old. It's based in the 1950s. It has some dodgy points of view around some things, but I think some of the messages in it around um, mature love and immature love and how it compares them and how you can grow older and you can still have this immature kind of love about it. And I think making those transitions is like the meaning of life, whereas you go from a place of, for example, need being the driver of love to maybe like being secure in your love that you can give freely, going back to like what we talk about, like giving to our friends and that sort of thing. We do it from a place
Yeah.
where we're not expecting something in return and it comes with security, and that's a lot much more mature place of love. And I think making that journey with respect to everything, the meaning of life is the journey, but that
Yeah.
journey is different for everyone, isn't it? So
We got there in the end. It's
got
a
there in
journey.
the end. That was it. Yeah, like it was a journey just to
No, I
get to
love
the answer of a journey.
I love it. 2 questions left. Let's do it. Like dancing, Gareth?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm rubbish at it, but I love it. It's yeah, like going to, for example, the metal festival, like like yesterday, metal festival, the metal sort of gig. There's moshing, there's more aggressive dancing, there's just running into people and bouncing off of them. And that's amazing because, like there's this camaraderie in it where like, if someone falls over, everyone goes to pick them up and, like there's certain like unwritten rules. So that's one side of it, and that's just like moving your body. But there are other sides of it. I've tried doing salsa. When I was in Spain, I was in Seville. So they have
Right.
Sevillanas, which is their sort of traditional dance that they do during the Easter fairs, the April fair. And that's the whole sort of take the apple, eat the apple, throw the apple away, and all that sort of business.
Wow.
And learning that, and also in Scotland, Cayleys. Have you ever been to a Cayley?
No, I haven't. No.
Cayleys are like, if you imagine that scene in Titanic where they're below deck and they're linked
Oh, yeah.
arms like that and they're spinning
Right.
around and they're
Right.
playing the fiddle in a big
Right.
circle. That's sort of like an Irish Cayley, but Scotland has Cayleys as well. And they're amazing because they're real. Again, you'd grab your part, you spin around to like this live music, and then you'd sort of almost throw your partner to like someone else down the line and they'd start spinning. And as like a social event, it's amazing. It brings people together. The same with like salsa is like you're
Yeah.
interacting with different people. I think they call it like, what was it, salsa vereda, casino salsa, where you change partners. And I think
Yeah.
there's something communal about it. But I love dancing. Like I love, yeah, it's again getting older. That maturity side of thing is like you start listening to your body a little bit more, and you realize, oh, babies dance instinctively and we somehow kind of get out of it, and then but like when you actually get back into it and you give yourself over to it, it's connecting with the body, and I think that's
Totally.
yeah,
About
really
of
important.
expression. I see dancing as a therapy. It's like you
Mm.
just move your body, just express yourself. It's like music. It's the same thing as well. It's just about moving and put it out. This good feeling when you feel like when you're moving yourself. That's how I see. There's no rules. You can dance, move
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you dance? Do you dance?
I'm Brazilian. When you're born in Brazil, you just you already were born dancing. Not professional, but I remember the 80s like dancing lambada. Have you heard about lambada? Lambada was very
No,
big
I
in
haven't.
the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, music for me as well, dancing. It's always been a normal thing, like very natural for us for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Next question is how to describe a perfect friendship?
think authenticity and honesty.
Hmm.
Um, the best friends that I've ever had have been the ones who have been there when it's been difficult, have been there when it's been light, but they haven't shied away of just telling me when I've overstepped a boundary or being really direct with me, even to the point where like, it might hurt and I might just be like, oh, like you're supposed to be my friend. Why are you saying this? But actually that there's something that's like true friendship is being able to say to someone like directly, this is, this is how people might be experiencing you and that sort of thing. I think friendship, I've had so many different kinds of friendship. And again, it means like different things to people. Like, one of the sayings that they had, like it might be the reverse of the UK, is like down south in Spain, everyone's sort of, your best friend for that night, and then they disappear, and like like people are much more friendlier in the north, but they're like of the UK, like so that like maybe you can make those connections a little bit more quicker. Whereas like the flip side, I know in Pamplona, where I was in the north of Spain, they said, well, we're quite a cold people, but once you're in as our friend, you're in.
Yeah.
And I think both of those kinds of friendship are
Yeah.
legitimate, but I think, yeah, the ones where your friends are, I mean, maybe that's the difference between the fair weather friend and not, is the ones that are there for you and they can see you in all your sort of humanity and be not be afraid to be direct with you, express their feelings to you as much as you can express their feelings back. And I think the respect that comes along with that, that's what makes it. It's
Well,
the understanding respect rather than like the shying away and being like, oh no, you're angry, you can't be a friend. It's like, no, you're angry because you're my friend and you're just trying to tell me something.
totally.
So yeah.
And which person in your life right now, right this moment, you feel more close to or more connect with?
Ooh. Um, I mean, I think recently it's been my sister.
Okay.
We don't speak often, but it's almost like having grown up with each other. You're kids, and you don't really have that sort of, like you grow up next to each other, and you have like friendship and all that sort of thing. But you also
Yeah.
have sibling rivalry,
Yeah.
and I think it's similar to parents. You grow up and they're your parents, but then like that bit where they switch over to become your friend,
Yeah.
is great. And I think with my sister, having spent the last kind of couple of years like being more around her and that sort of thing and getting to know her and having like these sort of lovely chats with her and really getting to know the way her mind works a little bit more has been like really, yeah, really worthwhile. And
Oh,
but there are too many to count. There are so many other. I'm doing an injustice to because there are loads of people that I want to give a name to in that answer to that
of course.
question. Um, but I think one that has been probably the most surprising and the most influential, I think, has been my sister.
As I can see your eyes shining talking about sister, she's watching this interview right now, and you have a moment, an opportunity to send her a message. What would you say?
Oh, I'm so proud of you. Like, and that's weird coming from a little brother because like normally it's the older one, but she is a machine. I mean, like in some ways she channels like I think she had quite a big bond with my grandmother, my nana, and like in lots of ways she really venerated her, like the kindness, the love of children, the sort of just being able to hold anyone up when they're around them, like and my sister is effortless at that. She works in beauty therapy, so her job is basically like doing people's nails and then giving them the full attention, but she does it like authentically. Like
Oh,
it's never an act with her. And like I just want to say I'm so proud of you and like what you bring and that energy you channel. It is the glue in some senses to like sometimes in our family, what's going on in our family, it's ups and downs of family, but what she brings is really the glue, and just the fact that, you know, she's a single mother and she's bringing up my niece and she's working her own business. She's a
Oh wow.
machine, and yeah, like
Oh,
you're incredible, JD. So there you go.
oh. JD, hello from me, okay? Beautiful. Again, goosebump. I think when people express, I think siblings, they know as well. You can go away, you can go other places, you can disconnect somehow. I mean, the connection always going to be there, but they know us, and sometimes it's good to remember that. It's good to somehow to praise that because they are, part of our lives for sure.
Oh,
Beautiful,
definitely.
beautiful.
My brother goes like, my brother is the funniest person I know, and he will say things that we found funny when we were like 7 years old, even though we're in our 30s now, and they still make me laugh. So that connection through
So,
time, that's
gonna
amazing,
be there
isn't it?
for them. Next question. Ready?
Yep.
Let's do it. How do I say last question in Spanish?
La última pregunta.
Última pergunta. Ah, em português you say
Portuguese, yeah, yeah, yeah.
português say
Obrigado.
última. Let's do it. Okay, but before the last question, tell me what music has taught you.
Oh, I think we kind of covered it. Like, it's taught me to be connected with your own body because of the way we experience music. It's
Yep.
taught me that it doesn't exist on its own. Like, music has, more often than not, something playing it and someone hearing it, and more often than not, it's in a community. So yeah, like, you can, I think if you do experience music on your own, whether it's recorded music and that sort of thing, I think you are seeing a more limited side of it. I think, like, if you go to the live music and you start connecting with the communities around it, or you just start playing an instrument, and without, no matter what level, you'll find that it brings you together with people as
Yep.
much as anything. So, like, and dance, you can't have music without dance.
Totally.
Even if that dance is just running and moshing into people and jumping around like a crazy person, if it's metal music, yeah.
Amazing. Cool. Last question is, what bores you?
Ooh, what bores me? That's hard as well. I think, okay. So I work in a somewhat corporate world, no names. But there's something about corporate in groups or in speak, um, that, like, I'm not saying it happens at my place of work, but occasionally it does. You get little pockets of it where people, might use acronyms or businessy language, and they might say, "Okay, guys, we're gonna synergize." Bless her. Like, one of my exes, like, she worked in management consulting, and she said, like, "Oh, like, I think they use solutionizing as like a word," and I was like, "No, no, solutionizing, no, you can't use that as a word like that." And they're like, "No, no," and they do it in meetings. So, like, anyone who turns around and says, like, "Oh yeah, we're going to do like cross-functional synergies," and like, the business words, or they use acronyms, that I find really boring, because it's more often than not a mask for just, not being direct with people, or like it's hiding some kind of deficiency. And it's almost like, own yourself, connect with people, talk to them in your language, because, and don't be afraid. You don't have to present yourself as this part of this in group, and, like, whether it's like senior management or whether it's like a certain way of speaking, because people can see through it. And yeah, I find that whole, yeah, I think it goes against kind of what we've been talking today about, like, that sense of community and connection and that sort of thing. I'm like, if you're going to talk to people, do it on their level. And I think that aspect of corporate business is a bit dull, because there are far more interesting thoughts and ideas and people behind those words.
I see. Okay. Right, it's not the end yet. Let's play now the word association game. I'm going to give away some words, just one word that comes to your mind. Quick thinking, okay? Let's start with family.
Love,
Money.
Not everything.
Fear.
Necessary.
I like that. Life.
Journey.
Love.
Growth.
Religion.
Distraction.
Sex.
Fun.
Politics.
Necessary.
Friendship.
Food.
I like that. Desire.
Passion.
Regret.
Learning.
Success.
Temporary.
Wish.
Dreams.
One word for happiness.
Goal.
One word for Edinburgh.
Oh, party.
One word for Spain.
Passion.
One word for England.
Complicated.
One word for metal music.
Oh, cathartic.
And the last one now, Wojtek. One word, the name of your band.
Oh, legends.
Amazing. Let's pretend I'm going to meet your sister for a coffee, and I'm going to ask her, define Gareth in one positive and one negative word only. What she would say?
Positive, she might say wise.
Mm-hmm.
Negative, maybe daydreamer. I don't know.
See?
I don't know what she says. She never says anything negative. I'm going to ask her the next time I see her.
When this interview goes live, when we get to this point, you pause it and you see her answer, and after you play again, just to see if you're going to match it or not. Let's play now, Gareth, in the magic box, and you can ask me a question. Okay, before you ask me the question, when people come to see, your band, Wojtek, playing, what's something that would you like people to take with them when they come to see your gig?
I think I'd like them to really... I mean, we're not metal in the sense of we have these sort of very obvious parts where like people go crazy. It's not very orchestrated. I think it's like a lot of our songs are narratives. So I think what I'd like for them to do, and our drummer describes it as we have like shades. We have the light shade and the dark shade to our music. And I think I would love for anyone who comes to see our gigs is just to be caught up in those moments where things go a little bit softer and then build, and just be taken away with it in whatever way makes sense to them, I think. Yeah.
Okay, Gareth, you can ask me a question now.
Okay. So yeah, like I mentioned, my niece has been like phenomenal being around her, and whenever I'm around the 4-year-old, like having never been really around young kids before, it's sort of made me see the world through their eyes in a different kind of way. So my question would be to you is like, who is in your life that just by them being there, it forces you into seeing the world through a different perspective or lens that you never would have imagined, or just that surprises you, and how?
Beautiful question. And my answer is going to be very, very similar to yours, because I have a 5-year-old godson, back in Montreal, in Canada. So he's son of my best friend. And the funny thing is, being a teenager, I love kids. I think you learn a lot around kids. Yeah, it's like once somebody told me, if you want to learn something, if you feel like miserable, if you feel sad, sit down with a 5-year-old or 4-year-old for a few seconds, or with an 8-year-old elderly person. Trust me, you're going to learn something and you're going to change your day. And it makes all sense. So, always being around children with my cousins, and I have, and since my godson he was born, it's funny because I always want to have a child. And when you think about having a child, somehow you picture their face in your head, your imagination. Gareth, he looks like exactly the same person when I thought about a few years ago about having a baby. And it's interesting because his parents, they are French, yeah, so he doesn't understand French. And the first time I went to see him when he was 4 years old, more or less, and I went to Canada. He's a COVID child because he was born during the COVID.
Right,
And
yeah, yeah.
it's interesting because I've seen him so many times on camera, all the time. And the first time when I went to see him in person, it was interesting. I'm going to share with you the story. So when I got there, I arrived quite late, so he was already sleeping. So I went to his bedroom just to see him a little bit before. So next morning I was staying in the guest room. So they were staying in the third floor, and my friend sent me a message, say, "Oh, he's already awake. You can come to the room." So he was in his bedroom, and I could see him like make some noises, and I was a bit afraid because he never saw me in person. You know what I mean? Like, imagine he was expecting his parents to come to see him, and suddenly I just opened the door and I came like very briefly, and he looked at me for a few seconds, and he put his arms like that for me to pick him up, and I was like, oh my god! So that it broke the ice straight away, and I was like, oh my god, that's beautiful to see. So back to your question, I think since even though he's far away, but somehow I see him very often. My best friend always tell stories about him, and I see like, my God, how amazing is to see someone like a little child like through their eyes. Sometimes it's interesting because when my best friend, he calls me on FaceTime, is most of the time when he's taking them to the nursery, yeah, because he was a brother as well. And one of those way going to the nursery, my friend just picked up the phone and he said, William, straight away, without like, he kind of remembered my friend taking the phone and the journey as well. So I think he's a person that even though I'm sure he's gonna learn English and we're gonna be able to talk and discuss things in the future, but since he came into my life, it's someone that when I think about him, it's just I can't wait for him to grow up and more for me to be able to travel with him and his brother as well and be around them, because again, you learn a lot with children and people around you. So yeah, I think he's the first person who came to my mind. I think it's someone that I meant to be his godfather for sure, because I always thought about having a child, and since he was born, I think about him all the time, every day, and I just can't wait for him to grow up. And so yeah, back to your question, he's the person that I think about always, and I just learned every day. I learn something new, or my friends share things about him, and it's great to see. It's great to see for sure. Yeah.
What's the sort of one thing that you would like to show him, like, or teach him?
You know what? Absolutely. I tell you straight away, one thing that I would love, and I will make sure for him that, I'm going to tell him, look, you can be wherever you want to be, literally. You can literally, I'm going to make sure for him, I'm going to tell him so many times, look, whatever you feel like, you can do anything, literally, and I'm going to be by your side. I'm going to be here to support you. If you tell me, oh, I'd like to do this, or to get a tattoo, or to whatever you think, I'm going to make sure that you're going to do it. I'm going to explain, even if something wrong, I'm going to explain to you. I'm going to make sure that you understand, and I'm going to be there. And I'm going to make sure that whatever you want to be, you can. You literally can. I'm going to make sure that, because, they can be, we can be whatever you want to be. You know what I mean? So I want to make sure that I want him to grow up knowing that, literally knowing that he can be whatever he wants to be, as long as he's not hurting others and himself as well. He can be. You literally can be. You can have your hair grow in your hair. Whatever you think is good for you, everything it's not gonna make you happy. It's gonna challenge you for something that you think it's about you. You can be, and I'll be there to support you, whatever, regardless.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So that's something that I love him to know. As as long as he knows about life, about when he start to understand about life a little bit, I'm gonna make sure that whatever you feel like, I'll be here, and I'll make sure that you'll be able to do it, because you can be whatever you want to be. I think that's the main thing for sure.
It's easy to forget.
Absolutely, and we do. I do sometimes as well. We just, it's part of life. So, but when you have someone, around you to remember that, it's a big thing. So I'm gonna be the one to remember. Amazing. Thanks for the question. Thanks for the question, Gareth. I
You're
think it's
welcome. Thank you.
amazing. Did you enjoy the interview?
Yeah, it's been a hoot.
Thanks again. Thanks for taking the time for the interview. I know we are so busy with our own lives, and when someone take their time for us, it's a big thing. So thanks again for being so kind.
Thank you so much for just asking the questions to make me think about things a little bit more. Yeah,
Before you go,
great.
Before you go, if you can share a positive message or anything that you live by.
Okay, so I was thinking about this. I need to bring up the actual thing. So I've got this tattoo here, which is sort of like it's a composite rune, but one of the runes here is need. It's called Nauthiz, and it means different things in sort of different languages, but it's where I'm from, the Anglo-Saxon region of the UK. Like it has a certain poem attached to it, and the poem is: need is oppressive to the heart, yet often proves help, and is the salvation of children of men who heed it in time. Which I think is a beautiful poem, and I think it's, for me, there's lots of positive quotes out there that are very positive on the surface, but I love the duality of this thing where it's saying, okay, there is this difficult thing in life, need, hardship, that is there and it's oppressive and it can weigh heavy on your heart, but it's also like a little message in there. And it's like, if you notice it and if you think about what's going on around it, then it's almost like a little nudge that you should change something. Like, like a good example is like Jim Carrey, the comedian, famously suffers with depression. And I think him describing depression as like, it's you being told something, it's you being settled down, it's just a stage, it's a phase where it's a signal that you need to change something about, whether it's your head or your heart or your body or your life. And I think that's been a really positive message for me, is just being able to listen to, even if things are difficult for whatever reason, there's something there that can point you in the right direction, kind of like we said, to help you become maybe the person that you want to be, because you feel the rub when you're not. So yeah.
Totally. Beautiful. I like that. Amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks again, regards to your family, to your friends, and I come to see you one day in your gig, okay?
Please do. Yeah, if we're in London, I'll hit you up.
Oh, please, let me know. It's recording, okay? And then keep in touch, okay? It was a pleasure. Take care.
Cheers, William. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So, did you like the show? Don't forget to give a like, share it, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to be part of the show as well, first, subscribe to our channel, and after that, just go to our website, www.williamandthemagicbox.com, and send us a request saying why you'd like to be part of the show. And I see you there. Bye-bye. See you next time.